All right, let's talk about something absolutely fundamental in JavaScript, how you declare a variable. We're diving into var, let, and const. Now, this might seem super basic, but trust me, getting this right is one of the biggest keys to writing clean, modern, bug-free code. So let's break it down. You've been there, right? You're deep in the zone, coding away. You try to update a variable, and bam, your console lights up with an error. It feels kind of random, but it's not. By the end of this, you are going to understand exactly what's going on under the hood, and you'll be in total control. And look, this isn't just some theoretical puzzle for fun. This is one of the most common questions you will get in a JavaScript technical interview. Nailing the answer to this one question tells an interviewer that you get it. You understand how to write modern, clean, and predictable code. So let's make sure you're ready to knock it out of the park. First up, let's take a little trip back in time to talk about the original. Before 2015, var was it. It was the one and only way we had to declare variables in JavaScript. And you know what? It gets the job done. But it's got some quirks that can lead to some real headaches. So what are the rules for var? Well, the first thing to know is that it's function scoped. That just means if you declare a var inside a function, it's available anywhere in that function. And it is flexible, maybe a little too flexible. You can change its value anytime, and you can even just declare it again from scratch, and JavaScript won't even blink. For example, if we write var a equals 10, we can totally change it to 20 later on. No problem. But here's the wild part. We can then write var a equals 30, and it just works. JavaScript just lets you do it. Now, in a tiny script, that might be okay, but in a massive application, you've just created a ticking time bomb for some really confusing bugs. Okay, so that unpredictability with var led to a much-needed update in ES6, which gave us two new and much better keywords. Let's start with let. So let introduces this idea of block scope. A block is basically anything between a set of curly braces, like an if statement or a for loop. A variable you declare with let only exists inside that specific block. This gives you way more control because while you can still reassign the value, you're now protected from accidentally redeclaring it in the same scope. Check this out. We can declare let b equals 5, and then we can reassign it to 15. Totally fine. But look what happens when we try to declare let b again. Error. See? Let is protecting us from making that exact mistake that var was totally cool with. It's like a built-in safety net for your code. But what if you have a value that should never, ever change? I mean, it's a constant, right? Well, for that, we have our third and final keyword, const. Const works a lot like let. It has that same awesome block scope, but it adds one final unbreakable rule. You cannot reassign it, period. Once you declare a value with const, that variable is locked in. It's really as simple as that. We can declare const c equals 100. But if we ever try to change it to 200 later in our code, nope. JavaScript is going to throw an error and stop us. This is fantastic for things you know shouldn't change, like API keys or mathematical constants. Now, here's a super important point that trips a lot of people up. When we say you can't reassign a const, that's true. But if that const is an object or an array, you can still change its internal contents. So we can't make R point to a brand new array, but we can absolutely push new items into the existing one. The thing that's constant is the reference, the pointer to the array, not the contents of the array itself. It's a key distinction. Okay, let's put it all side by side for that big aha moment. Look at this pattern. With var, it's the Wild West. You can reassign it, and you can redeclare it. With let, things get stricter. You can reassign the value, but you absolutely cannot redeclare it. And finally, with const, everything is locked down. No reassignment, no redeclaration. That's it. That's the whole story right there. So we know the rules now, right? But why does this actually matter so much? Why did the language even need these changes? Well, it all boils down to writing better, safer, and way more readable code. Think about it. When another developer, or even your future self, sees you used const, they instantly know this value is not supposed to change. That simple clarity prevents a whole class of nasty bugs. It makes your code way more readable, way more predictable, and it just shows that you know how to write professional, modern JavaScript. So what's the takeaway here? The modern workflow is actually really simple. Default to using const for everything. Start there. If and only if you realize a variable needs to change its value later on, then you can switch it back to let. This const-first approach forces you to write safer and more predictable code right from the start. And that's it. That is the difference between var, let, and const. You're now totally ready to nail that interview question and, way more importantly, write cleaner, better JavaScript. So I'm curious, which one do you find yourself using the most in your own projects? Let us know down below. Keep building and stay curious.